then they gave us a list of the persons who should be given the vaccine first jab. Hindi nasunod kasi may iba, ang balita ko, naibigay sa mga anak ng mga artista at iba pa.
President Duterte wants a probe into the local officials who jumped ahead of health workers in the vaccination line. The Archdiocese of Manila continued to hold masses yesterday, despite warnings from the IATF that churches might be forced to shut down for violating the ban on mass gatherings. While all eyes are on the NCR Plus bubble, the OCTA research team reports that other provinces are seeing higher spikes in COVID-19 cases. The Labor Department is flagging critical unemployment levels as the pandemic drags on. Meanwhile, the government is seeking a 10 billion peso loan from the World Bank to address malnutrition. And with global cases spiking, more and more countries are scrambling to secure supplies for their own citizens. This is resulting in an individualistic, every country for itself approach, rather than the cooperative vaccination plan envisioned by the WHO. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's everything you need to know as you jumpstart your day. I'm Charles Lejano. The Interior Department says the Ombudsman will determine whether local chief executives who jumped the vaccination line will be punished. This after 5 mayors received COVID-19 shots, despite ranking below health workers and other vulnerable sectors in the national priority list. Greg Gregorio with the details.
With vaccination turnout still low in the provinces, Tacloban City Mayor Alfred Romualdez took it upon himself to boost vaccine confidence among health workers. He told One News's Agenda he did nothing wrong.
Hindi magandang turnout yan kung 50% lang ang nagpabakuna sa mga probinsya. First of all, I don't think I broke the rule, no? Because sobrang dami ang hindi magagamit at ibabalik.
Romualdez is one of 5 mayors asked to explain about their early vaccination. The Interior Department's show-cause order includes Tibuli Mayor Dibutuan, Santo Niño South Cotabato Mayor Sulpicio Villalobos, Legazpi City Mayor Noel Rosal, and Batarasa Palawan Mayor Abraham Iba. Interior Undersecretary Epimaco Densing told One News that actor and Parañaque Councilor Mark Anthony Fernandez had also received the COVID-19 shot.
If proven that they've really violated the national deployment and vaccination plan, we will endorse them to the Ombudsman for administrative case, and it will be the Ombudsman who will determine whether they should be punished.
Over 500,000 have already received their first COVID-19 jab. Under the government's prioritization framework, more than 1 million health workers should be inoculated first. The Health Department maintained this must be followed.
Gusto muna nating bakunahan ang mga vulnerable natin, ang mga taong most at risk from being infected, para po hindi tayo ma-overwhelm nitong sakit na ito.
Violating the framework might compromise the country's access to free vaccines via the COVAX facility.
Ang WHO ay nagbigay na ng babala na kung sakasakaling magkakaroon po ng breaches dun po sa ating mga pinirmahang agreements, our additional supplies might be compromised.
The WHO committed to provide vaccines for 20% of the Philippines' population. Earlier this month, more than 500,000 AstraZeneca doses from the COVAX facility arrived in the Philippines, while some 900,000 additional AstraZeneca doses are expected by next week. For News 5, Greg Gregorio, we are One News.
President Duterte also reprimanded officials caught jumping the line for the vaccination program of the government. During his latest briefing, Duterte said that LGUs are responsible for ensuring that the vaccine priority list is followed once they receive their supplies. But the president also said that a certain amount of legal study must be done to validate the reasons of local executives who got themselves inoculated. Although the president did warn that since purchased vaccines have yet to arrive, everyone should first adhere to the conditions set by the COVAX facility.
in times like this, when we are only the donee sa mga donor at tinanggap natin yan with the conditions up, attached thereto, dapat sundin natin. Kasi sinabi na sa atin ng country representative ng WHO, if you do not follow the list of priority, you might lose the assistance of the WHO.
The health department expressed concern as the country again logged over 6,000 new cases yesterday. 6,666 new cases were reported on Wednesday, bringing the total tally to 684,000. This also brought the active case count to a record high 91,700. At last night's IATF meeting, Health Secretary Francisco Duque said the caseload could continue to rise if the public will not follow minimum health protocols, including the additional restrictions. Duque added that the capital region remains at the highest risk based on the 2-week growth rate, while regions 2, 3, Calabarzon, and Caraga are at moderate risk. The health chief advises the public to avoid staying outdoors for too long, to only buy essential goods in the span of up to 30 minutes to minimize the risk of infection.
Ang digmaan pong ito ay talagang laban sa COVID-19 at yung tinatawag natin battlefield sa katawan po ng bawat mamamayan. Ang kalaban po natin dito, hindi natin nakikita. Hindi po natin naamoy. Hindi po natin natitikman. Bago pa natin siya maramdaman, minsan nagiging huli na po. Ibig sabihin, nagkasakit na po tayo at tinalo na po tayo ng COVID-19.
For the NEDA, the country can't afford to go on another hard lockdown because the economy will surely struggle.
Good evening.
Speaking at last night's public briefing, Acting Socio-Economic Planning Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua pointed out that the country needs to continue managing the COVID-19 situation by focusing on localized lockdowns. Chua said it's possible to reverse the increasing trend in cases without an enhanced quarantine, like how cases did not spike when the economy started reopening in October of last year. The NEDA chief also noted that around 3.2 million people went hungry due to last year's lockdowns, and more Filipinos died due to non-COVID illnesses as they were not able to afford treatment. And with this, Chua says the overall health and welfare of the people must be the government's priority.
Yung issue that we face now is not economy versus health. It is the total health of the people, whether it is from COVID, non-COVID sickness, or hunger.
Meanwhile, the Labor Department has flagged the rising displacement of workers amid the pandemic. Speaking with 1PH's sa Totoo Lang, Labor Assistant Secretary Nikki Tutay said that more people from supposed non-essential sectors are losing their jobs. But Tutay insists that they can't simply disregard the IATF's decision to temporarily shut down particular industries.
Tumataas po siya pamula po noong January, biglang tumaas po ng February, at ngayon po hindi pa natatapos ang March ay medyo nasa critical din po na numero ang tinitingnan ko po. Huwag muna nating pag-usapan yung figure, but it's important to note that may mga apektado po tayo na mga trabahante sa mga sektor po na nabanggit po. Pero ito naman po ay 2 weeks lang, and hopefully po ay after 2 weeks ma-normalize na po ulit yung situation.
The Archdiocese of Manila went on with their plan to open their doors to the faithful. That's despite the existing ban on religious gatherings in the NCR Plus bubble. Mobile journalist Jacob Lazaro gives you a front seat to the story.
For friends Michelle and Mark, the need to come to church was stronger than the need to stay away from crowds.
Parang ano po kasi siya, nakasanayan na rin po natin, di ba? Tsaka parang hindi po tayo kumakapit sa Panginoon.
Mark and Michelle were just two of around 100 people who attended the noonday mass in Quiapo Church on Wednesday. The mass was held despite the interagency task force ban on all religious gatherings.
Safe na safe ang simbahan. Wala namang pagbabago sa pagsusot ng face mask, face shield, pag-check ng temperature.
In the One News program, The Chiefs, CBCP spokesman Father Jerome Ceciliano said the church is not defying the government ban on religious gatherings. But Ceciliano says the church will also not turn away anyone who wants to enter. Ceciliano says the church is encouraging people to just attend services online.
We are not encouraging people to attend. Sumusunod naman po yung mga tao sa amin. Ano? Kaya yung senaryo na binabanggit ninyo, we are looking at it na parang isolated case yun na magdadagsaan yung 50, 100 persons.
But at the popular Quiapo church, the numbers did reach 100 during the Mass. Church officials merely made sure not to exceed 100, or 10% of the usual capacity. At the gates, the ushers counted the number of people to be let in. There were temperature checks, and social distancing was enforced, with only 3 people allowed per pew. Some were confident that this was enough. Others were not.
Hindi mo masasabi, makakasalamuha mo, di ba? Kahit sabihin social distance, siyempre hindi mo masasabi.
Pero bakit pa din po kayo pumunta dito kung alam niyo hindi kayo masyado ligtas?
Siyempre, nananalig ako sa itaas.
Even amidst the surge, the people take their chances to worship the Lord. But even so, we must always be careful to protect ourselves and our family. I'm Jacob Lazaro, and we are One News.
Church officials from the Archdiocese of Manila were asked to write a reconsideration letter, stating the reasons why religious activity should be allowed within the NCR Plus bubble. On One News' The Big Story, Interior Undersecretary Jonathan Malaya said they're currently waiting for the church officials' letter. Malaya also said that the letter must contain assurance from the Archdiocese that public health protocols and restrictions will be followed in churches. The agency also clarified that the upcoming dialogue is not with the entire Roman Catholic Church in the country, but only with the Archdiocese of Manila. Malaya said other dioceses, such as that in Pasig, Cubao, and Novaliches, have announced that they will not be holding church activities this Holy Week.
I think the lack of dialogue and the lack of consultation and the lack of discussions between the IATF and the Catholic Church has led to some misimpressions and miscommunication as to the purpose of why we are holding and why the IATF passed resolution number 104, which banned all forms of public gatherings, including religious activities.
Here are the biggest stories from the dailies. The Philippine Star reports that 2 provinces outside the NCR Plus bubble have also recorded a spike in COVID-19 cases this past week. In the latest monitoring of the OCTA research group, it found that infections in Batangas and Pampanga even have higher rates of increase than provinces inside the bubble. However, the surge continues in Metro Manila with an average of over 3,600 new COVID cases daily, which is 63% up from the cases recorded in the preceding week. The B117 variant, otherwise known as the UK variant, has been found in 7 regions in the Philippines. Citing the DOH's recent data, Filipino Star ngayon reports that these include Metro Manila, CAR, and regions 1, 3, 4A, 6, and 10. Meanwhile, the South African variant, or B1351, is present in NCR and regions 3, 4A, 10, and 12. And this from the business world, the government is looking to tap the World Bank for an almost 10 billion peso loan to address malnutrition in the country. In a document, the World Bank said the proposed Philippines Multi-Sectoral Nutrition Project loan will be acted upon by its board on November 25. And the multilateral bank said the social and economic impact of the pandemic posed, quote, grave risks to the nutritional status and survival of young children as the rate of hunger in the country climbs. And as the pandemic worsens on a global scale, countries are on a renewed frenzy to secure their own vaccine supplies. The European Union, for one, is tightening export controls to ensure more doses for its citizens. Bloomberg's Maria Tadeo speaks with Bloomberg Daybreak Europe.
We're seeing a lot of muscle flexing from the European Union. We're looking at tighter rules when it comes to exports, not just to vaccines now, but also the ingredients to make vaccines. And the move could now affect 19 countries, of course, the United Kingdom being one of them. What's really key here is that the European Union says the move is about proportionality and is about reciprocity of vaccines that are supposed to come into the EU. And the timing is also crucial because it's coming just a day prior to a European summit where European leaders will debate whether or not they want to enforce even tougher measures on the vaccines. And of course, it's also happening while the United Kingdom and the European Union fight over what to do with production of vaccines in a site in the Netherlands. So we are headed to, at least in the short term, for more muscle flexing, and the European Union again insisting that they want to see reciprocity, and this needs to be a two-sided street. Of course, the frustration here is that the rollout in the European Union has been impacted by delays a few times now, in particular for AstraZeneca, and the mood here is very tense.
And that's how the day is shaping up to be. Join us later at 10 a.m. as we monitor the day's biggest stories from sunrise to sundown. You can also catch One News on Signal Play. Just register for a free account at www.signalplay.com so you can stream One News live anytime, anywhere. I'm Charles Lejano. Mask on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. We are One News.